Hello everyone, and welcome to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are live on multiple platforms one more time. This time we are on Twitch, YouTube, and for the first time ever, we are live on Twitter right now. I didn't even know this was an option, but I decided here's a good opportunity to give everyone a taste of what we do here on Spoiler Warning. If you'd like to stick around and see more shows like this, you just have to pop up on the YouTube, youtube.com/c/Tom Colohue, but I'm considering maybe adding watch parties regularly to Twitter, or maybe the occasional spoiler warning based on the news in play. Our top story today is going to be new WWE contract negotiations ongoing for Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. We have an update for that, as well as news on a number of other wrestlers and a number of other members of talent. We are also talking the new Dominic Mysterio deal that is that's already been reported by PWInsider. 5-year deal. We'll be going into more detail on that. We're going to be updating on a number of people on creative hiatus. Fightful gave us a list. Let's expand on that one. We're going to be talking about WWE choosing to watch AEW and watching for a reason. We'll be going into more detail there. The injuries to Kenny Omega and Charlotte Flair, including changes being made to Wrestlemania to accommodate because of that unfortunate injury, AJ Styles and the reason he turned heel, the rebuild for the women's tag division, and I'm going to have a good laugh at someone who's decided to download one of my videos, use AI to take what I've said and then claimed it as a report of their own about Mercedes Money, formerly known as Sasha Banks. Yes, they got about 100,000 views, but they are what we call in the business a lying sack of shit. So that's going to be what we talk about today. 55 people already here on the YouTube side. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. We have 23 so far. 2 more gets us to 25. And there is plenty more that we're going to be talking about tonight. So be sure to stick around. It's also an Ask Me Anything stream. So if you're watching for the very first time on Twitter, send me a message, send me a question. Let me know that you're watching, and I'll be sure to ensure that those questions get answered. I can see the little box. I can see how it works over there. All you've got to do is type something in the box and click send, and it should pop up on my side as well. So by all means, check that out. Sean says hello there. No, it was a bad Obi-Wan impression. Spider-Boss says, hello Tom. Funny that every time Mercedes Money News appears here, you see SRS coming up with Mercedes Money News. Spoiler warning is always ahead of USA Wrestling Media. Appreciate that, Spider-Boss. Leon says, hi Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you, Leon. Raymond says, hello Tom. How are you doing? Looking forward to hearing the news. Good to hear, sir. Parrish says hello. Hello, Parrish. Spider-Boss says, I hope this new contract for Drew McIntyre includes a world title run. More on that shortly. Khalid says, hey, Tom, mate. Hi, Khalid. How you doing? Parrish says, Dom Mysterio is a serious contender, in my opinion, is the MVP to WWE in 2023. I do not disagree with you. Yes, Eric, I did see the PWI story. It's actually on the community page on YouTube right now. Spider-Boss says WWE does watch AEW. The segment Elton Strong from Pretty Deadly is similar to Roderick Strong, Neck Strong. Again, more on that shortly. Pardon me. Jason says, greetings Tom and chat. Hope you all are well. Season's greetings and such. Thank you kindly for that. King Azza says, hey Tom, are we getting LA Knight versus AJ versus Roman versus Randy at the Royal Rumble? No. Razar says, I saw a Twitter account say the exact same thing you reported about Mercedes. I don't know if you saw. I did. Michael, who's in the chat on the Twitch side right now, thankfully alerted me to this insane practice that someone is following. I shared his tweet, which I'd imagine, Razar, is where you saw that. The fact that it was literally word for word tells you everything you need to know. Thankfully, Michael has sent me screenshots, so at literally any point I can post that, plus a clip from Friday's spoiler warning, making it clear that someone is basically stealing my living. Mark says, hey, how are you doing today? Doing pretty well, thank you, mate. Ron says, maybe TK should watch more WWE to get more of their talent. A lot of them do not want to go there. Eric says, for the funniest thing I saw about Liv's arrest, a couple of clickbait channels are talking about her being fired. In no way has she been fired. D. Freeman says, will you be talking about the new Dom contract? Yes, I will. Michael says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Michael. Spider-Boss says, speedy recovery for Charlotte. SmackDown is lacking of another top babyface in the women's division. And Sean says, PWInsider gave more info in Charlotte injury. They said she tore ACL, MCL on her meniscus, and there's belief, although not confirmed, she suffered a strained neck in the fall. Again, more on that a bit later as regards to Charlotte Flair and the changes that are being made to basically accommodate the injury that she's unfortunately picked up. Thank you kindly, D. Freeman, for renewing your subscription on the Twitch side for a 26th month. You certainly have been here a very long time, and at no point have you failed to renew. That's very impressive, because I don't see too much of you now, and it's a shame, but it's lovely to see you when you do drop in. Welcome, mate. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate you. Riyadh says, "Say, Tom, hope you and the family are all good." They are indeed, and I hope you're good as well, Riyadh. KJ says, "I'm only 5 minutes late. Did you talk about the contract news yet?" Nope. Not got there just yet. I like to let the room fill up a little bit first. King Azza says, "I hope Seth and Becky stick around after Mania, with their contracts ending in June." Bailey says that the 90-day non-compete from the last WWE cut expired by now. I don't believe they're expired just yet, no. Spiderboss says, "It surprised me the news about Liv Morgan getting arrested last week. Hope that doesn't ruin any plans for her. It seems unlikely to. More on that later." Daniela says, "Tom, may I ask if you're talking about the Liv Morgan situation?" Yeah, we'll talk about it a bit later. If you guys are interested, I'll share what I know. Just be aware that I don't know too much, so it might be a very small piece. Appreciate you, D. Freeman. Perry says, "I would have assumed we were getting Charlotte versus Jade at Mania, but now I see Becky versus Jade at Mania. To my knowledge, neither of those are going to be happening." Squid says, "I wish there was a way to handle plagiarism legally. Imagine being so lazy, stealing someone's hard work for your own profit. Don't you worry, because the opportunity will definitely pop up for me to put said person on blast. And then all it needs is a couple of people who are actually paying attention. And if anyone who at any point has complained about people not crediting them or stealing their work, they should be backing me. They won't, but they should be." Brad says, "It's a devastating injury and it's sad that it happened," which is true. Riyadh says, "Tom, do you think Okada will actually end up signing a full-time contract with WWE or AEW?" Yes. Michael says, "I think the 90-day non-compete expires this week." I believe that to be true, yes. Spiderboss says, "Do you think we could see Saraya versus Toni Storm at World's End for the AEW women's title?" World's End? Isn't that a pub in London? Parrish has confirmed the 21st is a date all release talent can go elsewhere. No worries, Daniela, I completely understand. Hector says, "Not sure where Triple H will pivot to. With Charlotte's injury, I think it would be a good time to give us Bianca versus Jade. That could easily steal the whole weekend." Could it? Daniela says, "I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about it." I know, Spider-Boss. I was having a laugh. First piece of news then, our top story. Just as we continue, we currently have 78 people watching on YouTube, 32 likes so far. One more gets us above that record we keep bashing into of 33. So please do consider continuing to support the channel in that manner. We have hit a new record recently when it comes to subscribers, 5,454. If you've never watched a show, here on Spoiler Warning, by all means, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitter right now, pop over to youtube.com/c/Tom Colohue and you'll find the show where we go live 2 times a week, pretty much every week. Our top story is as regards the contract situation for Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. The WWE has already begun contract negotiations to ensure that its top stars are not going to be going anywhere. This is one of the reasons that Dominic Mysterio signed a new deal earlier on this month. Now, Dominic Mysterio is someone that the WWE are planning to build around for a long time from now, and they were determined to lock him down even before locking anyone else down. A lot of the releases that have been taking place were designed with an idea of being able to offer more money to certain superstars. Those superstars did include Drew McIntyre, Becky Lynch, and Seth Rollins. But what I will say in addition to that is that there have been a number of additions that they weren't accounting for at that time. Primarily, you're looking at Jade Cargill, who they were accounting for at that time, and CM Punk, who they were not. They've also made, as I reported on Friday, spoiler warning, a pretty significant offer to Mercedes Money, formerly in WWE, known as Sasha Banks. That's going to wear down that budget and limit the amount of money that they can spend. That said, this is Nick Khan's domain, not Triple H's domain. Drew McIntyre, as I've reported numerous times, is not necessarily looking for a huge increase in money. His focus is on championships, and can I say, world championships. This is why he's been working with Seth Rollins for quite a while, but he will not be approaching those championships in a case of actually winning them unless he actually signs a new deal. The WWE essentially teasing him with a championship. making a point that if he's a heel, he could go against CM Punk if CM Punk wins. He could get revenge on Gunter if Gunter wins. He has, of course, already worked against Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and will, at some point again, find himself standing across the ring from Seth Rollins. But this is also one of the reasons they're giving him a justified position. He's not necessarily pure evil as a heel. There are some understandable traits and some understandable aspects to what he's doing that allows them a number of different options available to consider his push. Drew McIntyre has not signed a new deal yet to my knowledge, but negotiations are ongoing. The WWE have offered him a significant push, but it is not necessarily the significant push that he's looking for. From what I've heard, it seems like he will need to back down, at least a little, in order to get a deal across the line. To be blunt, the WWE is not afraid of losing top stars anymore, especially after what happened with Edge. They allowed Edge essentially to go to AEW by making, as I reported at the time, one offer, and that was their final offer immediately. The impact that Edge has made in AEW has been pretty negligible, especially after they picked up CM Punk in the WWE as a replacement. Seems like the mood has very much shifted. In addition to this, we're talking Seth and we're talking Becky. The WWE is aware that a number of people, I've mentioned Seth and Becky before, are looking for limited date contracts. Limited date contracts are similar to what Roman Reigns is working under, Randy Orton is working under, AJ Styles is working under, and others. This does potentially include Charlotte Flair, though she did just have a prolonged break pretty much instead. Now, when it comes to the limited date contracts, there is a belief that Becky Lynch is looking to go to Hollywood, so they are confident that a limited date contract will suit her well, and they're open to that concept. However, a limited date contract also comes with a serious reduction in income. It did not for Roman Reigns, and this is part of the issue that they are having with the Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins contract situation. People at the top want the same wages as people at the top. There's a lot of negotiating still to do. Nothing final has been made yet. We're still in the very early days of negotiations for the both of them. But the WWE are confident that as of right now, they are the only show in town. And with that in mind, they're simply not afraid of losing anyone the way that they have been in the past. The reason a number of wrestlers like a Keith Lee, for example, like Andrade, like Miro, like Aleister Black were released when they were was because of very high value contracts which the WWE long-term, particularly Vince and Nick Khan, didn't believe to be sustainable. Those contracts were signed under the provision that they would not want to lose those people to AEW. Well, eventually they decided that they would actually have to lose those people to AEW rather than continue paying that amount of wage. And when they lost them to AEW, they realised that they actually didn't need to be that afraid of it. The WWE at this point simply not as afraid as they once were, and Triple H in general is believed to be someone who simply isn't particularly interested in anything going on the other side. That, of course, flies in the face of one thing that I've reported in the past. Triple H actively watches AEW. Once again, guys, if that sort of report, that sort of news coverage is what you're looking for, be sure to hit subscribe. I know we have plenty of people on the Twitter side at the moment. I can see the numbers. And I do hope that many of you are considering popping over and hitting subscribe. We will be live pretty consistently, as we always are on YouTube. We've been doing spoiler warning for about 3 years now, and I highly recommend you give us a shot, give us a chance, and pop on over and hit subscribe. Plenty more news to come, and plenty of chat to catch up on. Let's see what people are saying. Daniela says, hopefully Dexter Lumis comes back soon. He's a great character in my opinion. Sean says, another fan got scammed by a fake Alexa Bliss, and when calling her out on it, Alexa replied telling the fan it wasn't her. Can I just give some immense credit to Alexa Bliss for that? Alexa Bliss does not need to engage with these people, to essentially engage with people who feel a serious anger towards her, and in many ways may become threatening or to a level of stalking. She's engaging with them out of the goodness of her heart when she doesn't need to. Certainly right now, she's just had a baby. And this is adding serious, unnecessary stress to her life. So you have to give the woman immense credit for what she's doing. Eric says, good evening, Tom. How you doing? Doing well, thank you, Eric. Good to see you. Raymond says, any updates on Deonna Purrazzo and WWE? I've given every update I can. I believe I've given more updates than anyone else and more information than anyone else. My belief is that Deonna Purrazzo will be joining WWE because I can say with confidence she has been in contact with Triple H on a number of occasions. Riyadh says, I'd be very worried for New Japan if Okada left. At least when Nakamura left, Okada, Tanahashi and Naito were in their prime. Now they're not, and Ospreay has left as well. Missed one name there, Riyadh. And it's a name that I might never forgive you for. You cannot forget Jay White. Jay White. You're not wrong, though. New Japan's in an interesting position right now. They're planning to launch a greater international presence. The idea being that they can go out into the world and start taking the fight to AEW, working with AEW and recognise AEW talents, because so many, like your Will Ospreays, like Kota Ibushi, not like Kota Ibushi, let me correct that, like your Will Ospreays, like Jay White, want to also at the same time continue working with New Japan. So there will still be, essentially AEW will be advertising their show. Impact recently reporting there's going to be a big deal coming on our show. I would be looking at Okada and Ospreay as those people, to be fair. Ospreay's probably one they're going to be going for. So it does mean that they've lost quite a few people, and you can see just from the impact of Bullet Club leadership how thin on the ground they are at the moment. Razar says the Bianca versus Damage Control feud has really run its course. I'm sure the Charlotte injury doesn't help, but are there plans to refresh the SmackDown Women's Division? It's so repetitive right now. There are plans to refresh the Women's Division. The plan is simply the draft. The draft is incoming. It will happen after WrestleMania. The plan at the moment is essentially that Kairi Sane added a little extra element, which I've got to admit she does, and a face turn for Bayley will add an extra element as well. So we never get more than a couple of months before we start moving on to something slightly different. LFUK says, hi Tom, good to see you live on Twitter. Sent you a question about Roman and Randy. Thank you, LF. It's a good way of testing it. I'm trying to test what's happening there. I'm not actually seeing any chat coming through there, so I'm not sure if I can respond at this point. I don't know if maybe the technology is not quite there, but thank you for testing it for me, LF. I'd very much appreciate that. Will, thank you very kindly. A very generous donation. Thank you very much for that. Says, do you think with Charlotte being hurt, it may push WWE to bring in Mercedes money faster? On Friday, I did state that I believe Triple H at this point, based on sources, what they're telling me, is going a little more intensely hell for leather in the attempt to attract Mercedes money back to the WWE. There is, of course, a possibility that it is connected to Charlotte's injury. I will be talking a little bit later as regards plans for changes at WrestleMania. We have 96 people watching on YouTube, 46 likes at the moment. 4 more get us up to 50. If you can be one of those 4, I would be eternally grateful. We have double the amount of people as we have likes, and I just think, if possible, can we get a little higher? Can you take me higher? King Arthur says, hey Tom, does CM Punk really need the Royal Rumble win in your opinion? Hell no. Doesn't mean he's not going to win it though. It's CM Punk. Promises have been made. And I'm not going to sit here and say the promise is the Royal Rumble. I don't have that information. What I do have, and what I've already mentioned, is CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. The second CM Punk appeared on screen at Survivor Series during that watch party, I stated CM Punk, Seth Rollins, WrestleMania. Look what has happened since. Sean says, SmackDown has now been without a full-time champion for 18 months. Do you think that's been detrimental to the product? No, not really. Genuinely not. You'd think it would be, but here we are, and SmackDown continues to be a pretty good show. Michael says, thoughts on the big signing in TNA Scott D'Amore teased. I would suggest it would be a Will Ospreay, it would be a Kazuchika Okada, making appearances rather than a full-term deal. I don't think they've got Mercedes money. They're trying. Don't get me wrong. They're trying. And it's certainly not impossible. As I did mention earlier to Juan, I am not aware that Mercedes money has signed any contracts as of yet. I'm not aware of any signature. So anything can still happen. I just don't think it's gonna. Perry says, I would say Punk doesn't need the Rumble, but the business of Punk winning could be what WWE needs or wants, which I think is a very fair comment. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Welcome Marcel, nice to see you. Riyadh says, Tom, do you think WWE would ever actually put a world title on Sami Zayn? Yes. Briefly, in a transitional period, if they're trying to get from one heel to another. It's unfortunate. Khalid wants CM Punk on Raw tonight. He will be on Raw tonight. Alex says, are you excited to see Mercedes return to the ring wherever she ends up? I am, actually. I've missed her brand of chaos. You know, when she's wrestling, she always looks like she's genuinely trying to cause serious bodily harm to one or both of them. And honestly, that's appealing to me as a wrestling fan. That's what I like about New Japan. They're actually trying to hurt each other. Brad says, love that news. Thank you, Brad. JJ says, I feel WWE need Becky. She's a huge part of the women's division, especially for Raw. Noob says, hello, how are you doing today? Doing well, thank you, Noob. Welcome to the show. KJ says, I hope WWE keeps Becky and Seth. I still think Drew may leave, unfortunately. I don't know. I hope he stays, though. His character is top tier right now. Sean says, do you think Kushida is a good sign for TNA? Yes, I do. That engagement with New Japan as well is similar to the sort of deals that I'm talking about with AEW also. At this point in time, AEW are essentially helping Impact, going to be TNA going forwards, and New Japan by working with similar and sometimes the same talent. It feels more like an indie, but it's helping all three of them to grow. Spider-Ball says, switchable Jay White is phenomenal. It has been fun watching Jay White without Bullet Club Gold around him. Selvik says, hello Tom, hope you're doing well. I wanted to ask, what if Okada goes to AEW? Would WWE take Julia as a fair trade? Well, it wouldn't be a trade, first and foremost. WWE don't have anyone to trade. They don't have Okada. My expectation is that Okada would go to AEW over WWE. There's a reason Japanese stars have been spending a lot more time in AEW, and I do feel it allows them a lot more flexibility to travel home more often. Spider-Boss says the Bianca vs Damage Control feud really ended after all times Bianca defeated Damage Control clean. Bailey says, are there any other WWE performers eager to test the movie waters that WWE would agree to? Liv Morgan's name has been mentioned a number of times. Alexa Bliss's name has come up a number of times, with the idea being pitched that Alexa Bliss could essentially work through her recovery period in film and TV. There are certainly a couple of TV shows that would be interested in getting a lot of appearances from Alexa Bliss. Juan says, Tony Khan, Jacksonville Jaguars play better in England than USA. Maybe he should consider moving them to England. Maybe Fulham as well. Michael says, Triple H would bring Mercedes in to slot her right back in where Vince left off, putting over the roster. At the moment, with storylines already in play, I do find that likely. Though, and I will be talking about this a little later, if a deal can be struck, Banks versus Belair certainly has a lot of unfinished business to it. Eric says, about the Kenny news, any news on what has happened to the Golden Jets? Not at this point in time, no. Riyadh says, even though they have a working relationship, I can kind of see New Japan taking it to AEW internationally, simply because it seems AEW are fumbling the ball hard. An opportunity has popped up. Impact are trying to take it. I would not be surprised if New Japan tried to join in. Chris Leclerc says, Bayley has 72 matches in 2023. She's won 7 matches, so Bayley needs to win the Royal Rumble next year. Again, need is a strong word. I've had her winning the Royal Rumble for about 6 months now. Marcel says, I'm watching the Dawson Mutant listening to spoiler warning. Appreciate you, Marcel. Aled confirms, appreciate Aled. CM Punk isn't advertised for Raw tonight. Bailey says, giving credit where it's due, Triple H is giving holiday vacation time for both Raw and SmackDown performers, which amounts to 2 weeks off for performers, announcers and the travel teams, which are all very, very good things and allows people to have an extended break. Not just when it comes to the Christmas period either. People are having breaks during the year as well. Drew McIntyre immediately after WrestleMania, for example. Sami Zayn set to begin a period of time off also. Eric says, Katana Chance liked someone's post on X for saying that Casey Square will be transitional champions to the Kabuki Warriors. Yeah, she's laughing at them. KJ says, hey Tom, random question, who's your favourite female and male wrestler? I know you like Jay White and Gunter. As for the women, I'd say you like Mercedes. Alexa Bliss is one of my favourite wrestlers because she's just such a comfortable and competent talker. Becky Lynch is probably my number one. Selvik says, any news on Pac and his contract status with AEW? It's almost impossible when it comes to contracts to work things out for AEW. AEW does not publicise contract information, and that makes things difficult. So unfortunately, Sovic, I do not have this at this point in time. Though what I will say is with the amount of absence Pac has had over the years, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still on his first damn contract. Roger says, I'd like to see Jacket Time in TNA. They were a great tag team in NXT. Rizal says, outside of the Rumbles and the Roman match, are we going to get any more title matches on the card? Yes, we are. Spiderball says, if we ever get Mercedes money versus Bianca, I hope Mercedes wins. After all, Mercedes put over Bianca at WrestleMania 37 2 years ago. Riyadh says, I think that Sting has a chance of being the TNA surprise given their history together and because of Sting retiring. If they're advertising a signing, seems unlikely. If they're advertising an appearance, seems more likely. Chris, how you doing? Says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Chris. Aled says, just got an ad 25 minutes in. Thank you, Aled. If you do get ads on YouTube, please do let me know. I'm trying to find a way where we are comfortable with them. We occasionally get, for example, once every half hour, you get a 5-second ad that you can skip. Something like that. It's good for the growth of my channel because it does mean YouTube will advertise me more because they're getting paid for it, as silly as it sounds. These things do matter. Roger says, were you happy with Liverpool drawing with Man United? Nope, it was not a good game from Liverpool. Cal says, hello, Tom. Hello, Cal. Mark says, just watching in the background, do you have any Gunter news? I do not. Spiderball says, when we could see Dakota Kai back in the ring, we are waiting for the point at which, well, I'd imagine after WrestleMania, to be honest, so she may make a Royal Rumble appearance. To my knowledge, sources do indicate she's already been cleared. JJ says, Seth said during an interview Becky had a lot of meetings in LA, hopefully about Hollywood, so I can see WWE giving her the part-time contract. I would think that as well. Gal says, hey Tom, is CM Punk now WWE's highest earner? Nope. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. KJ says, I like Becky and Alexa too. Becky's probably my favourite. Raymond also got an ad. Thank you, Raymond. Razar says, in your personal opinion, not a report, do you think we see Mercedes at the Rumble? I'm leaning towards yes. I'm not going to answer that question because Sasha Banks fans. King Azza says, hey Tom, do you think WWE is going to swerve us again by having Roman win over Cody? Nope. Chris says, switch to YouTube, got an ad right away. Whenever you join on YouTube, you'll always get an ad. I'm monetized, so they always start with an ad. Sean says, do you think the women's tag team title match opens Raw? I don't know what the plan is for Raw. I don't have the schedule. D. Freeman says, doesn't Seth have to be back on set, pardon me, to finish his scene in the Captain America movie? Yeah, but to be fair, that won't take too long. I agree, Riyadh. I agree. We screwed up. Next up. Before I jump in, just want to say, as I've said a couple of times now, I really do appreciate the amount of likes, the amount of comments. I also really like that you guys are starting to just sort of engage with each other at times. You begin with an @ so I know you're not talking to me, so I can just skip past it. But it also does keep boosting that chat rate, so please keep that up. Next up, there was an update from Fightful as regards a number of wrestlers. So they pointed out that Omos was on creative hiatus, Dexter Lumis is on creative hiatus, Odyssey Jones is on creative hiatus. If you're a regular viewer of Spoiler Warning, you'll already know that Omos is on creative hiatus, Dexter Lumis is on creative hiatus, and Odyssey Jones is on creative hiatus. But I want to give a bit more context to these particular things. For Omos, they believe that Omos has everything they need to, well, everything he needs to go as far as is required. They believe in Omos, and there are definitely times when Omos has shown that he can perform. MVP is still working with him, but whenever MVP is not available, Omos tends not to be available as well, and there are a couple of scheduling conflicts there. The issue, as much as anything, is that they don't want to bring Omos in to squash people, because that does damage to the people that he's squashing. And ultimately, he's been there years. He wrestled against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Surely they can do better than that. The problem then becomes, what storyline do we give him? And they don't have any idea. At the moment, Brock Lesnar is likely back at the Royal Rumble. I've reported already he's going to be back around then. Well, I'm expecting Brock versus Gunter at WrestleMania. Omos is the backup option to face Gunter should anything fall through as regards Brock's new contract. As regards Dexter Lumis, the way are out of the way at this point in time. There was a number of different options available that they wanted to consider, but when it comes to Dexter Lumis, there is a belief that he simply does not work with his current character on TV. They are currently trying to put together a plan for Dexter Lumis, which allows him to play a new version of the same character. To be blunt, the creative team are seriously struggling to come up with something that actually works and fits that criteria. They are struggling heavily to give us a version of Dexter Lumis that ticks the boxes that they're going for. As regards Odyssey Jones, he was called up with no plan, and that has been the case since day one. There is still, at this point in time, no plan for Odyssey Jones. And while we've seen plenty of people reporting he'll be making a call up this soon, he'll be making an appearance here, he'll have this storyline, nothing has ever gotten to a point where even Triple H is involved in the planning. Nothing has gotten to that point. So, that's an update on them. Roger says, do you have any Camille news? I do not. Marcel says, I have an ad now. Thank you for letting me know, Marcel. Alex says, we are right on the goal line of finalising one of the biggest signings in TNA. Those were the words of Scott D'Amore. To be fair, considering some of the overall level of talent there, I'd imagine we're looking at someone like a Matt Hardy as well, possibly. Eric says, that confirms my suspicion Dakota Kai has become a wrestler manager for Damage Control. You say your suspicion. I've outright said that a number of times, particularly at the point at which Kairi Sane returned. I stated Dakota Kai would be the mouthpiece and eventually get back to wrestling. Appreciate you, Rizal. Michael says the talks between Mercedes and WWE essentially the same this year as it was last year. It sounded like last year she was all but going back. There were some very strong moments before she picked up her injury, but also AEW did have a lot of sway. To my knowledge, there was a greater interest in going to AEW at that time than WWE because she remembered what happened in WWE. Stephanie McMahon was directly involved in trying to bring her back, but they weren't able to make the promises that they wanted to make, particularly given that they were trying to conserve money to pay more to Logan Paul. Now a little bit more has gone out the kitty, there is a bit more available, and Triple H is more keen than ever. Triple H is promising more this time than he did last time. Cal, I don't know on that one. I simply don't know, and honestly, I would hate to speculate. Joey says, hey Tom, did I miss the contract news? You did. You want to pop back to about 8 to 10 minutes into the video, and you'll be able to catch up on it. Rosal says, what happened to Veer? Is he not coming anymore? No, he's simply been coming for a much longer period, and after he came, he started building up to come again. In much the same way as Val Venus. He came, he saw, and then he came again. Simple. Noob says, I heard Dexter Lumis is starting a wrestling school with Tom Latimer from the NWA. That's the reason why Dexter Lumis is out of the WWE as of late. It's not. That's not the reason. Where did you hear that from, Noob? Because you haven't sourced it, and I want a source from you. Leon says, the truth is, Dexter has one of those characters that's hard to book unless they change things up. I honestly think the Dexter Lumis character doesn't work on the main roster. I think much the same. Spiderboss says, WWE could use Dexter Lumis as Indy's bodyguard. I wouldn't hate it, but they'd have to use Indy Hartwell first. Joey says, do you know why Odyssey Jones was turned down for Bobby's new group? Well, first I'd have to know that Odyssey Jones was turned down for Bobby's new group, and I don't know that. Sean says, there are also no plans for Zion Quinn. Nope. Michael says, the whole uproar about Ric Flair was overblown. The women have actually been booked so much better since then. It is a combination of promises being made. A lot of people are very unhappy about Ric Flair coming in, and so Tony Khan is attempting to placate them. Essentially, if they hadn't have kicked off about it, there wouldn't have been an improvement. That's my opinion. D. Freeman says, I think there should be no more drafts. Since there are a lot of people who are not on TV, it's really time to start cycling people on and off TV, because the draft brings people up and they don't have plans. I believe we should still have drafts, but I believe call-ups should be limited, and it should be a case where people at the top, who aren't necessarily the very top, like Drew McIntyre, start being let go. Like Edge, start being let go. That creates space at the top. Dane says Omos is not a good wrestler, and you're entitled to that opinion. JJ says, sorry for all the Becky talk. Why? Just talk, mate. Just talk. I'll explain again, because this seems an ideal time. There are a number of things that really help this channel grow. Particularly, as you know, my focus is primarily on YouTube. I also have Twitch, and today I'm on Twitter. Though what I will say, I wouldn't expect to see too many people watching on Twitter. It's just one of those things where, it's Twitter. I'm trying my best, but ultimately people weren't exactly expecting this. The things that help a YouTube channel grow is engagement. And the ways to get engagement are quite simple. High chat rate, high like count, high viewership. In that order. So if you're asking me 50 questions about Becky Lynch, you know what? My chat rate's just gone up to 50. And that means this show's getting advertised to more people. You're doing me a favour, mate. Never be afraid to ask questions. Never be afraid to make comments. Never be afraid to talk amongst yourselves. You're making me successful. You. Not me. You. Jay says, if she does do Hollywood, do you think she'll use her personal name since that's her Twitter name already, or Becky Lynch? Rebecca Quinn, absolutely. Hector says, if the Judgment Day don't hold the tag titles come Mania, could you see not only Finn but also... Okay, Hector, you're asking me to make a guess based on an assumption. If this happens, will this happen? Well, I don't know. First we'd need this to happen for me to know where we are in the world. Blair says, Tom, you are tremendous at this. Oh, thank you, Blair. I very much appreciate that. Do you think there'll be a Shield reunion? Yes. In the Hall of Fame. Then says, do you know why WWE did not sign Kylie Ray? Because firstly, Kylie Ray didn't want to go to WWE, and secondly, WWE didn't want to sign Kylie Ray. Cal says, do you think Punk will turn heel in this run in WWE? I feel he's going to pick up the 2011 and 2012 years of Punk. Nope. Because at this point in time, especially with the big return, fans won't let him. Spider-Boss says, Triple H can make a lot of promises to Mercedes, but I wonder if Triple H can keep his promises, which is fair. Bobby says they should pair Dexter up with Truth. I wouldn't hate that. They could make that work. Blair says, what was the greatest 90s WCW feud of all time? I really enjoyed, even though it was very one-sided, Savage versus Hogan. I reckon they could have done a lot more with that. Cal says, Tom, do you think we'll ever see a return of ECW? I'd love it to return. There's so many guys who can't just go in NXT that will benefit in another show. Nope, because the more shows, the more diluted the talent pool becomes. Joey says, Omos versus Gunter isn't a big Mania match. Nope, but it is a Mania match. Potentially. Cal says, like the video, Tom. Thank you, Cal. We're on 59 right now. One more gets us to 60. Can you be the one? Because we have 106 people here, so it's more than enough. Zane says, Thunder Rosa is back on TV. Cannot complain about that at all, no matter what they have her doing. Just to clarify, as regards Thunder Rosa, I reported in August that she was at All In at Wembley. She was at All In at Wembley. As she has herself now said, she was recovering and back in and training in August, travelling with AEW and essentially making some changes. Riyadh says, Tom, do you have any updates on Damian Priest cashing in? Nope. D. Freeman says, I get you, Tom, on people on the top need to be let go sometimes to open up spots, but you can't let them go if you're not sure the ones under can reach and keep a top spot in the eyes of the fans. Hard to make top stars. That's why this recent going, we're having a good time with top stars. That's true and a fair point. However, imagine for a moment that what they're actually looking at, and I can confirm this, is if they do lose Drew McIntyre, they're going to replace him with Gunter. Reckon he can reach the top. Sean says, Truth is scheduled to face Jade McDonough in a Miracle on 34th Street fight. WWE confirmed this. Bailey, I don't actually know on that one. I would need other people to jump in, and honestly, it's just not an area I really want to be speaking about. Joey says, do you have any news on Okada? No, this time, no. Cal says, it's nice to see AJ Styles back. I agree. And Spider-Boss says, do you think we could see the fallout of the Judgment Day once they lose their tag team titles? Assumption? Guess. Yes, Jack, Dominic's contract is 5 years. David says, Gunter, Brock at Mania, any chance at all? Yes. In fact, I am comfortable saying that Brock Lesnar will be returning around the Royal Rumble time. Brock Lesnar and Gunter have previously spoken about having a WrestleMania match. Plans were already in place for this year's WrestleMania. Gunter, from what I can tell, is looking for a fight. And Brock, from what I can tell, is happy to lose an Intercontinental Championship match. That'd be great for Gunter, and also, to be fair, good for Brock. Cal says, I have a feeling Cody could hold the belt for long, but not longer than Roman. I think Reigns' run should get the respect it deserves. If it's longer than Roman, that means we'd have 2 champion over the course of 8 years. No thank you. I get that they don't want hot potato. This reign has been a breath of fresh air. I'm done with it now. I'm tired. I am tired. Next up, I've already mentioned about WWE watching AEW, simply a lack of fear at the moment, the fear that used to be there about potentially losing talent. Let's talk about the injuries at the moment. The injury to Kenny Omega is disrupting AEW plans because Kenny Omega is someone who would always be at the forefront of planning. However, the AEW roster is simply so deep that they don't really need to worry too much about it. The AEW roster can call someone else up, but they will be missing out on Kenny Omega. honestly, the biggest deal right now is losing out on Kenny Omega for Wrestle Kingdom. What I will say as regards to Charlotte Flair, I did say that they were concerned it would be bad. I didn't have details beyond that at the time. The scan did confirm that it was a tear. They were terrified that it would be. It will take Charlotte Flair out of WrestleMania and quite possibly take Charlotte Flair out of 2024. The WWE have a provisional return date right now of the Royal Rumble 2025, and I do not expect that we'll see her before then personally. I don't think necessarily she'll be back in 2024. This does mean she will be missing this year's WrestleMania. The WWE are now putting in place plans for Bianca Belair. The original plan for this year's WrestleMania was Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair, a match that Charlotte Flair has been asking for years. And I mean years. She's been trying to make this one happen. We were going to get it this year, but now plans are changing. The Bianca Belair heel turn, which we've been slowly building towards as she gets more and more frustrated, is no longer happening. The idea would be that Bianca and Bayley would swap positions, and Bianca could then potentially move to the other side, or Bayley could, and we build around the other one. At this point in time, there are options available. I spoke earlier about the fact that the WWE have made a contract offer to Mercedes Money. I could certainly see that as a possibility if she chooses to sign. What I will say, though, is that Jade Cargill is more likely to be the one to step into the breach against Bianca Belair. Because Jade Cargill wasn't expected to start actually wrestling until at least the Royal Rumble time, that may be pushed back due to some personal news that she's had recently. I won't go into detail, but people who follow it will be fully aware of the situation. Because of that, Bianca Belair's current position is essentially frozen. The WWE are simply doing nothing with her until they can work out the exact details of what they need to do going forwards. Personally, I cannot blame them for that. Also on the list of headlines, AJ Styles did indeed return at this week's SmackDown, attacking LA Knight. There's a number of different reasons for that. Essentially, there is a balancing out happening when it comes to Randy Orton. Randy Orton returned as a face, and they are considering keeping Bobby Lashley as a face because of the general reactions he's been receiving. With that in mind, AJ Styles is the one that they decided, plus the club, would be turning heel. This is why Michin was not in any way connected to AJ Styles this week. The WWE have been trying to get Gallows and Anderson more involved. However, they are not willing to do so, and their contract stipulates that they do not have to unless AJ Styles is in the building. So it looks like the entire faction will be turning. Michin may take a little bit longer. It's also possible that she turns on Zelina Vega very, very soon in an upcoming women's tag team match. LA Knight was chosen as the opponent that AJ Styles would turn heel on as a way of communicating to the fans, hey, we've not forgotten about him. LA Knight has been at the forefront of WWE programming, particularly on SmackDown for a while now. After the loss to Roman Reigns, Triple H wanted to try and reassure fans that things hadn't changed, that LA Knight was still going to be a focus going forwards. I believe he's been able to achieve that. We have 110 people watching, 64 likes at the moment. One more gets us to 65. We finished Friday's show at 80. If we're able to get past that, I'd be a very happy boy. But for now, I just want the one to get us up to 65. There is plenty of news still to talk about and plenty of people in the chat to answer. So let's continue catching up with what people are asking. Kel says, I think Judgment Day's time is short anyway, since hinting at a separation since after Money in the Bank, in my opinion. I agree, that is what's been happening. Spider-Boss says, it's nice to see AJ back. AJ taking out LA Knight was awesome. Bailey says, Gunter versus Brock, that's a banger. Sean says, hi Tom, since I found your channel I don't listen to Meltzer any longer. Enjoy your content, big thank you. That's quite a compliment, Sean. Meltzer, of course, is the most infamous wrestling journalist of his generation, so I do find that quite the compliment. Thank you kindly. Sean says, do you see Blair Davenport dethroning Lyra? No, I wouldn't personally see that just yet. I think there's at least a little while longer that Lyra can hold the championship. D. Freeman says, Gunter in my eyes is a top star now with Drew here. Him being able to get to that level while him here is what makes him a star. Jay is an example of a star making his own lane without losing anyone. I agree. Chris says Kenny Omega needs to rest, and I wholeheartedly agree. Kenny Omega has been putting himself through wars And honestly, being nice and calm, good thing. Selvig says, I want to ask one thing. If Cody wins the title, would WWE change the name of the Undisputed WWE Universal to WWE Championship or just WWE Undisputed? Right, okay, so I did have news on this a long time ago. When they first introduced the new championship, I stated at that time, well before anyone else did, and you can look up the dates on this, that the championship would follow the heraldry and the history of the Universal Championship. Not the WWE Championship, the Universal Championship. Until the moment that Roman Reigns lost the championship. At that point, it would change to following the history of the WWE Championship. With that in mind, Selvik, I expect the Universal part of the championship to be quietly dropped once it is won by someone else. This was reported a couple of weeks later behind the paywall for Fightful Select. Michael says, damn those top ropes, I say ban them all. Ooh. John says, I think it's quite sickening that some are happy that Charlotte is injured. I agree. Cal says, I do wonder who TNA's big signing is. Joey says, do you see Liv Morgan having a match at Mania? We were going to talk about this, so let's talk about it. The WWE did have big plans for Liv Morgan, but they didn't necessarily mean a big match at WrestleMania. With the recent arrest, the WWE are currently actively assessing the situation. I find it unlikely that Liv Morgan would be penalised. She is due to return to WWE shortly. She is still showing some effects of injury, but I expect she'll be cleared pretty soon as well. Liv Morgan I expect to see in and around Royal Rumble time. As regards WrestleMania, unfortunately, I don't think Liv Morgan makes the cut unless she makes the cut as a tag team wrestler. There are plans for a Four Corners Women's Tag Team Championship match once again. Pardon me one second. Because Triple H is currently trying to rebuild the tag division, my expectation is that Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez would team back up and compete for those honours. Bobby says, not getting a Lashley versus Reigns for all this time is unbelievable, especially that Bobby was the last person to pin him clean. Rizal says, I'm so bummed about the Charlotte injury. I remember Seth had a similar injury back in 2015. He recovered well, hoping the same for Charlotte's knee injury. For Charlotte, knee injuries are no joke. Roger says, TNA Wrestling announces Jade Chung as new ring announcer. Okay. Joey says, do you see AJ getting some of his TNA persona with this heel run? Nope, I see him very much being a similar heel to how he was previously in WWE. 23 says, MJF signed an extension with AEW. He definitely signed a deal that worked out better for him with a serious increase in money. To my knowledge, it was not an extension. JJ says, I see them adding Bianca to Bayley versus Io. I do not. Jack says, Bobby, you're wrong. The last person to pin Roman was Corbin. He did say clean, to be clean. Chris says, what would AJ Styles do for WrestleMania? Again, I don't necessarily think he makes it. Jason says, your AEW financial video is very informative and very unbiased. Thank you, Jason. I very much appreciate that. We put a lot of work into that one, and I'm very proud of what we were able to create. So it's nice to know people are still enjoying the work. Joey says, do you know if AOP are joining Karrion Kross? I don't even know that AOP have signed any deals. So how can they join someone or a company that they've not been part of? Spiderball says, if WWE bring back Mercedes money, do you think WWE pair Mercedes with Bayley? Or do you... Okay. Assumption, guess. Barry says, Randy Orton called it the WWE Championship on SmackDown when he challenged Reigns. He misspoke. 23 says, who is the most morally based person in the business? Okay. I'm going to need some context on that one, mate. Chris says, wouldn't it hold both lineages for the titles? Nope. Cal says, do you think Roman will go off TV for like a year after Mania? It's inevitable he'll lose to Cody because he could get close to a year off return at Royal Rumble in 2025 and potentially face Punk. So no, I don't. This is the main reason we haven't seen him much this year. He was owed a few dates and a little bit of time, and he did work more than expected on his limited day contract at the beginning of the year. But the WWE are also able to accrue additional appearances after the fact. So the fact that we haven't seen him much this year means that we're likely to see more of him next year. Spiderboss says, fans complaining about Roman's title reign is funny. Fans wouldn't like Hogan's title reign in the 80s. They wouldn't. That's true. Michael says, I'll believe the attempts to rebuild the women's tag division when I see it, and I think that's fair. Roger says, do you think Thunder Rosa is one of the best wrestlers in the world? Haven't seen enough of her to speculate. Cal says, I think we could see Punk, Reigns, Heyman Guy versus Heyman Guy storyline, but I think Heyman's timeline is short. We could certainly see any number of matches in WWE. Heyman is pushing for that. Rizal says, is Logan Paul going to defend the title at the Rumble or be in the Rumble itself? I find it likely he will defend the title, but also he likes the Royal Rumble, so probably both. Eric says there are some on social media blaming Asuka for the injuries to the point of wanting WWE to fire Asuka. There are some at social media that will say anything at any point at any time. You will find every possible wrong opinion on social media. Juan says, hey Tom, Sean Ross just reported what you reported on Mercedes Money. He also said it doesn't mean the door is closed between her and AEW. What exactly was it that you're saying he reported, Juan? Because I'm aware that he's reported that things have soured between her and AEW. I reported that a couple of months ago. Aled says, didn't Jay pin Roman clean in the Civil War match? The Civil War match? As in Captain America? Ken says, hey Tom, any plans for Zelina Vega? They're currently rebuilding the tag division. She is going to be an important part of the start of that. Sean says, do the tag belts hold the lineage of both titles? Yes, they do. Jack says, tag matches don't count. Cal says, maybe I'm wrong for this, but I really enjoy Logan Paul in the WWE. I very much enjoy Logan Paul in the WWE. Crush, I'm not going to sit here and say when Logan will lose his championship. I already have. Spider-Boss says, every time WWE tries to rebuild the tag division, someone in WWE Women's Division gets injured. I hope nobody gets injured this time. Esteban is asking about Sheamus. He's due back shortly. 23 says, basically a noble individual. William Regal? He's a good shout. D. Freeman says, I've got a hypothetical situation. Would Dom be the most over babyface if he could switch every single fan who boos him to cheer him? And then could you see him as a world champ? And second, would the company see him as a world champion? D. Freeman, going to be very blunt with you here. The company already see him as a world champion. Brad says, Uso versus Roman and Solo. Was that Civil War? Michael brings in the report, says Mercedes Money is not currently signed to New Japan, which is true. WWE is planning to renew talks with multiple free agents in 2024, though it is unclear if Money is among them by Fightful Select. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you bringing that in. That confirms some of what I've been reporting. As I'd imagine is going to be the case, my name will not have been mentioned in any of that. Chris says, any news on Dom's post at CM Punk? Yeah, good storytelling. Perry says they called the Usos versus Reigns and Solo as a civil war within the bloodline. That was a promoter line just like Once in a Lifetime with Cena and Rock. Thank you, I was missing that. Appreciate the context. Sorry to hear that, noob. I understand. Take your time. Yeah, one that was a little while ago. Basically reported things soured between her and AEW. Also reported WWE Creative claimed there's no creative plans for her. That's a red herring. Yeah, there are no creative plans for her. They don't create creative plans for people who are not signed to their contract. Cal says, I'm convinced we'll see Cena versus Punk at a Saudi event next year. I'm very, very, very interested to see if CM Punk actually wrestles in Saudi Arabia. Michael brings in more information. At the time of AEW All In, AEW sources indicated there was a tentative plan for Mercedes Money and AEW to work together when she was no longer injured. At the beginning of December, it was mentioned that those plans were no longer active and the two sides were far apart on terms. It was not indicated they pertained to dates, schedule, financial terms, or booking. It has not been said that this means the door is closed between the two sides. Now, Michael, you've been with me and this channel a very, very long time. You have a vested interest because of your fandom for Mercedes Money. So I'm not going to say it. I'm going to ask your opinion here. Is that not what I've been reporting for months? You're also a very honest person who will let me know if you think I'm doing something wrong. You've told me at a point when you thought one of my shorts had a clickbait title, and I appreciate that. So I know I'll get an honest answer from you. And that's important to me. Roger says, MK Ultra, the best women's tag team in the world in TNA. Spider-Boss says, I almost forgot who was the last Latino world champion in WWE. Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. Spider-Boss, I've already read that one. Chris says, any plans for Judgment Day to drop the belts to Creed Brothers? You're asking me for a match finish. Bobby says, have you heard anything about a potential WWE TNA working relationship? Nope. There is no plan that I'm aware of for WWE and TNA to work together. The WWE would not benefit in any way from that relationship. Carl says, something we should know now is a once-in-a-lifetime match in the WWE is never it. D. Freeman said if Drew would leave WWE, he wouldn't be winning the AEW title in no time soon, because I believe Will Ospreay has been promised that title at the Wembley show. Quite possibly, but there's plenty of time between now and then. It doesn't have to be MJF he wins it from. Spider-Boss says, I remember that. You've been saying Mercedes Money news for the last couple of months. The Freeman says Alberto Del Rio was the last Latino world champion. Ouch. Just ouch. Perry says, any news on new tag team titles? Same as it is every week. No news whatsoever. There has never been any plan that I'm aware of for a new tag team title. Cal says there's so many possibilities of Punk, isn't there? You might say everything is on the table. Alan says, why isn't Punk's first match back televised? I think it's stupid to have it a live event because they want to sell tickets to the live event. Leo says Miz versus CM Punk in Saudi is a must, and that I wholeheartedly agree with. Brad also confirms exactly what I've heard you report. Fair point, Steve. Definitely worth considering. Fair point. Sean says, do you know if there's been talks with Cassie Lee and Triple H or WWE? At a time, yes, way back at Triple H's early return. When he took over creative, he did reach out to both members of the Iconics, but at that point in time, they were unavailable. Michael says, and I very much appreciate this, I'd say both your report and Fightful is similar. Nothing specific on anything that actually changed, but an agreement was in place at one point and the talks aren't off per se, but there's still an offer. I appreciate you for that, Michael, especially how carefully you've worded that. I do think you've got some proper journalistic blood in there for the way that you phrase things. Spider-Boss says, Rhea's been wrestling more in live events to sell tickets, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's generally how it works. Rhea Ripley's a draw, guys. She be a draw. Gotcha, Steve. Appreciate that you looked that up, though. It's always good to check. Chris says Drew would probably go back to TNA instead of AEW. I think AEW would offer him a lot more money. JJ says if Mercedes does come back, do you see Trinity coming back? Assumption? Guess. Cal says WWE will never work with TNA, only one side benefits. That's TNA. WWE wouldn't want that. It's in no way positive for the WWE. KJ says there's 65. This as regards the likes. My bad. I thought I did it already, but there you go. Appreciate you, sir. True, Crush. True. And I believe that's the reason we've not seen them back in WWE. He wants them both. Danielle says, smash the like button if you haven't already. Big up. Appreciate that. 66 now. 4 more to 70. Will says, in 2 months, Fightful will report that WWE have been offered to Mercedes money after you reported it. We'll see. They might never report that. They might report the exact opposite of that. These things have happened. I'm going to go with Damon Heater. Let me know if I got that wrong. Is there any news on Mickie James? No news at this point in time. To my knowledge, WWE not particularly interested in bringing her back, and Mickie James has made it quite clear to a number of companies that she's planning on retiring, and is absolutely fine leaving it there. Roger says, I don't see all the fuss about wrestling companies signing Mercedes money. I've never been a fan of her. That's why you don't see all the fuss. If you were a fan of her, you'd see a lot of fuss. Jack says, who do you think will be moved to SmackDown if Cody wins the WWE Universal? Because I don't see WWE moving Cody or Seth or CM Punk to SmackDown, but both titles can't be on Raw. I do think Cody Rhodes moved to SmackDown. I think CM Punk stays on Raw, Cody Rhodes moved to SmackDown, and maybe Randy Orton moves back to Raw. I'm not sure on that one, Cal. I don't have an exact quote. Daniela says, what are your thoughts on Ivy Nile stepping up to Rhea Ripley last week on Raw? Good. More people should do that. One says, according to Fightful, AEW wants to put creative plans for Dolph Ziggler and redo the storyline of 2015 with Miro and CJ Perry. Pretty stupid. I'm not entirely sure that's what they reported. I appreciate you saying that, Spider Boss. I don't think there's jealousy there, to be honest. He makes a lot more money than I do, reporting basically the same stuff, but later. Let's not forget also that he reports other stuff. I don't want to take away from the fact that I don't like the man, but he is good at his job. Roger says, who do you think should be called up from NXT? Bron Breakker is long overdue a call-up. More news will be coming via the community page. There's been a very good reception to that, and I'm planning to use it a lot more often going forwards. It's a real quick and easy way to get news out there and share what's being talked about. In the meantime, though, that's been our Monday. That's been our first show on Twitter, good old-fashioned Twitter. We go for an hour here, and then we wrap up. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has joined me. We peaked at 114 viewers. We've had 68 likes, and I'd imagine, hopefully, we broke a record for chat rate, because our record so far is 297 comments in 1 hour-long stream. 300, here we come. In the meantime, be sure to check out PLE Wednesdays this Wednesday. Be sure to check out WTF Wrestling from yesterday. That's already live and is discussing the current doom and gloom around AEW. And Be sure to check out Friday for more spoiler warning. I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.